Well, get this. Imugene's market cap was $247 million in November 2020, so 1 year ago. Today, Imugene's market cap, I checked this morning, is $3.1 billion. Yes, that's with a B. Hard to believe, right? So what's behind the name? What does it do? Where does the company go from here? And who's running things? Of course, Leslie Chong, CEO and MD of Imugene, joins us now. Leslie, nice to see you there. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, that market cap is a pretty big number. Leslie, can you believe it?
It's so impressive to me even. I just spoke with my chairman, Paul Hopper, and we were in a way pinching ourselves because it's actually now at 3.24 billion, if you can imagine. It's thrilling.
Oh. Why? What do you think has brought this enthusiasm into the market about Imugene?
I think it's exactly what is indicative of the science that we're following. My catchphrase, I think now is follow the science. And we have amassed the company with three pillars of scientific technologies that are just unique in that it really unleashes your immune system to finally do what it's supposed to do, which is right the wrong of what cancer has done. And so it unleashes the powerful nature of your immune system onto your target or your cancer target and tumors.
So that's the broad strokes. Now, we've been discussing throughout this event this morning, how important the clinical trials are in the different phases. You're still very early stage, but for the CheckVac program, which you are, really, we're open to you explaining what it is. You've recruited the first patient for that trial. So that is a triple-negative breast cancer trial. Please explain.
That's right. So triple-negative breast cancer is one of the deadliest breast cancers that you could be diagnosed with. It's one of those where they just they don't know where it originates, and it's an accelerated growth of a tumor cancerous cell. And in this case, what we've applied is not only our oncolytic virus, which has an extreme prejudice against solid tumors, we've also put a transgene, a PD-L1. So PD-L1 is an immune regulator, and there is a drug called Tecentriq that's already approved in triple-negative breast cancer. So what it does is it not only infiltrates into that triple-negative breast cancer cell, it also implodes or gives a nice payload of the PD-L1, so you get a whopper effect from your immune system.
So that's one patient, from what I understand, has been recruited. But how many patients is this targeting? I mean, just give us some color about that whole sort of clinical phase design.
Absolutely. So clinical trials generally go into this phase 1, and then you find a dose. It's much like everything has a toxicity. So you measure, the most efficacious dose that you can, the highest dose that you can get with until your toxicities catches up. But in this case, because of our oncolytic virus has shown to be quite safe preclinically, we think that we'll likely go up a few doses. If we see a signal, be it a safety or an efficacious signal, we'll probably make that into our optimal biological dose. And so it could be anywhere between, 6 patients to, we've designed it such that you can have it upwards of 40 patients, but we'll probably find a dose with that and then extend out and then turn that into a phase 2.
Okay, now what else is Imugene working on in terms of technologies? Because there's lots going on.
We have an extremely large, prolific pipeline. I think everyone's quite familiar with our Bcell technology, and those are the most advanced in the clinic. So we have Hervax, which is an anti-HER2, that's in gastric cancer, and that's finishing out of phase 2, and we've got 3, possibly even 4 studies coming off that. And then we have PD-1 Vax, which is also it's a Bcell technology that's in lung cancer, and that's finishing out and finding that perfect balance of efficacy and as well as limited toxicity so that we can take that into a combination. And then we've got CheckVac, we've got vaccinia, which is the most parental virus, the most powerful, prolific oncolytic virus that's going to explode into several different solid tumor types. And just as recently as 2 days ago, I was able to announce that with our Uncarlytics, this is an oncolytic virus that has a transgene of CD19 that shuttles up these proteins that when you combine it with a powerful drug called CAR Ts out there, it can completely obliterate any solid tumor. So we just announced a preclinical exclusive strategic partnership with Eureka, because they have a CD19 directed T cell therapy. And we also have an exclusive combination preclinical work with Cellularity that's ongoing. And they too have a CD19 directed CAR T. It works a little bit differently than the Eureka one. And so we're being a little bit promiscuous and getting that data that's going to be so gorgeous for our Uncarlytics. That's the CF33, our oncolytic virus, with the transgene of CD19.
Okay, so the Uncarlytics, a question has come in from Mike, if you don't mind. He's a viewer. He says, is there likely to be a new Uncarlytic iteration that will target markers other than the CD19 that you did just reference?
So that's a really great question. And of course, if this theory or this construct works well, preclinically or otherwise, I could imagine that we're going to have a lot of orders in from biotech companies, because if they have something like a CD20 or CD17 CAR T, the idea of making every solid tumors into that particular target, it's going to be quite attractive. And so, yeah, I dare say we will likely look at constructions other than CD19.
Now, we started out, this is also for Mike. We started out by talking about PD-1 vax. So Mike is wondering when we can expect to hear a further update coming on that front.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to release some data across the phase 1 portion of our PD-1 vax soon, hopefully by the end of the year, but it's all about getting excruciatingly painfully slow gathering data across a lot of our lung patients. I can say that we have some patients that have already reaped some benefit, and our patient that had a complete response in December, he would have gone through a whole year without any cancer growth. So that he's already progressed off of another line of therapy. He's come in because his lung cancer grew, and he is still living without any cancer growth for the last almost a year now. So I'm pleased to say the studies are going really well.
Well, it's just absolutely fascinating to me, because when I think of clinical trials, I think of a lot of people remaining somewhat anonymous, and I'm sure this person is ultimately anonymous, but you can actually think and see how your drug, how your product is impacting one particular patient's life. And I suppose this goes to why some people are so inspired in the biotech space. I digress, though, Leslie. You've recently announced collaborations with Cellularity and Eureka. What is that about? I mean, what is necessary in those collaborations for Imugene?
I just want to go back to your comment, because I think that's an important point. So most of the time when I learn about patients and how we're benefiting, I only see them as just like a two-dimensional paper figure. And, in my mind, I think about those people actually being able to go home and tell their family and friends that they no longer have cancer. It's one of those things that I get up every morning thinking about how much of an effect that has in a person's life. So it is a empowering and to me, and inspiring that our patients are doing well. And I think that's one of the reasons why all of Imugene staff keeps going, and we work really hard towards getting those effects in patients. going back to your now question about our combination, our strategic partnership with Cellularity and Eureka, what that's about is gathering combination data with different mechanism of action of CAR T. So our product only works with a combination because it's a CD19 directed combination in order to really obliterate solid tumors. Oncarlytics, what it does is it marks any kind of solid tumor, because the tumors and cancers are mosaic. They have several different mutations, they have several different signaling paths, and what this purports to do is to cover it and shroud it in CD19, one target. And so this one target is CD19, and you get something like a powerful CAR T directed at CD19, and you have invasion from our oncolytic virus, add the CD19, and it causes a whopper of effect of your endogenous T cells, your immune system coming to the fight, our oncolytic virus getting rid of the cancer. So it's this beautiful effect, but we need to see that preclinically. And what that will do is to really increase our value of Oncarlytics, because both these companies, obviously they really want their CD19s to work in solid tumors, because that's a little bit of a problem for CAR Ts to work in solid tumors, especially with the CD19 target, because that only occurs in blood cancer. So this will improve greatly and provide that supportive data that Oncarlytics indeed works in combination with CD19 directed CAR Ts.
You've got Bcell immunotherapy programs going as well. What is the next step? You can talk next catalyst. Where is that headed?
Well, Hervax is, as I said, it's finishing out as phase 2. We're opening something like 3 or 4 different studies just off that, and I'm eager to announce on the next full study design, and that is to come hopefully very, very soon. We're just ironing out a few details. PD-1 Vax, we will go into a combination here soon, yet with another checkpoint inhibitor, which I'm quite excited about. And all that platform, the beauty of that is within 6 months, you can have a target and create a vaccine candidate within about 6 months. So the platform is quite prolific.
So there's lots happening there. I suppose because of the early nature and the exciting nature of what you're doing, it's very difficult for an investor to understand what track Imugene will ultimately end up on. Is that fair?
I suppose, I like the various different tracks that we can go to. Having choices like this is a dream of any biotech companies, to say any one of our products could be partnered. It could be, we could have collaboration. So there's meaningful value for shareholders as well as our products. So I like having different choices of tracks. And it doesn't limit you from having one product that must be sold or one product that has to be marketed, right? So this gives us a lot of choices. And I have a phenomenal chairman that I speak to possibly more than my husband on a day-to-day basis about our company and how to grow the company. And we're pretty nimble, flexible. We can pivot at a moment's notice. Having these choices and arsenals have been greatly appreciated in our conversations with several different partners and collaborators.
But, Leslie, also fair to say that it's unlikely to be a very fast process toward ultimate development and commercialization.
Cancer drug development has never been called fast. I think the fastest that I've ever seen a cancer drug develop is 5 years, and that was Keytruda, because it saw profound effect in the clinic. So there was a lot of push from, and we've seen this with, COVID vaccines, right? In that when you accelerate, when you have good efficacy, when the world is screaming it out, that they need this product, that's when you can really expedite it. And I think, something like with Oncarlytics, you could possibly look at fast to market, fast strategies, and fast to regulatory processing.
And is that, again, what makes Imugene sort of unique in this whole ASX listed biotech landscape, that it is addressing a need that is so prevalent, right around the world?
Absolutely. I think Imugene is one of these unique companies that's developing not only cancer drug, but we have sort of a motto that we want to be innovative. We really want to have the sense of urgency that we need to get, these drugs to patients as fast as we can, and we want to partner with people that's going to get us there. And our collaborators thus far have shared our philosophy that we need to follow the science, because if we follow the science and get the proof of concept, expeditiously, then you can move on to the next phase of marketing.
And I mean, deep skills within the management team and the board. What about dealing with regulators? What has your experience been? What do you think that you bring to the table, because this whole clinical phase trial is so instrumental to the phase that the company is in right now?
Absolutely. I think the regulatory bodies across the US and Australia and anywhere else in the world, it's all about safety for patients, right? It's not about, they have no idea if it's going to work in patients or not. Their concern is safety. And one of the beautiful nature of our drug is that it's been quite safe. We've added, we have patient data, clinic data to show that our Bcell therapy is quite less toxic in combination with chemo, less toxic than existing products. Our oncolytic virus, we've shown no toxicities across many of the animal models, so we hope that plays out in humans. But we think we have quite a high safety, profile across all our products that's going to lend itself to regulatory approvals and regulatory conversations. They're still cautious, and that's one of the natures, and that's great that there's a body to really, look out for patients' needs and safety. We just need to provide the toxicology and evidence that our drug is safe so that we can expeditiously move through the clinical trial process to get this to patients sooner.
And just to end, going back to part of our conversation, potential investors can expect to get an update, hopefully, from Imugene on that PVAC story by potentially the end of 2021.
I hope so. You and I both. I hope to get a lot of the news out before the year. Again, it's just sometimes negotiation takes a long time, and we want to be quite precious about how we treat our drug and our shareholder. So this is the reason for a lot of the potential delays, but it's not at the risk of not treating our patients and getting them the drug that is needed for the unmet need.
Well, Leslie Chong, it's wonderful to speak with you. It's quite the journey you're on, and we look to speak with you in the future.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Leslie Chong, she is CEO of Imugene.